Welcome into Off the Hook Sports. I am your host, Caleb Calhoun. We've got a lot to get to today. Tennessee's kickoff time with the Georgia Bulldogs and the ETSU Bucks has been revealed. We're going to talk about whether or not that helps or hurts the Vols, or if it matters, actually. As a matter of fact, I'm setting that up as a poll question right now. We also have updates on Zakai Zeigler's pending lawsuit against the NCAA. There is now a hearing on that. That's going to come into play next Friday. I'm going to talk about why he's actually making the wrong case for himself to try to have another year of eligibility. There's an argument I think he's making, but I wrote a column about this last week. I think he's making the wrong argument. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. The college football debate rages on. It won't go away, and that's largely because of SEC spring meetings. Totally a ton of different formats being thrown out there. We're going to get to all of those and talk about them. And we're going to see exactly what the options are. The College Football Hall of Fame has changed its rules. We're going to play a little hot or cold on coaches that would now allow to get in the Hall of Fame. I'm going to talk about that. I'm not so sure I'm a fan of it, but hey, I understand they wanted to get one specific coach into the Hall of Fame. And maybe I'm crazy, but my Hall of Fame standards are high. And I don't know if I love this rule, but at the same time, I do understand it. So we're going to get to that. And then we're going to talk about the SEC's court storming policy. And once again, I will be unpopular with this fan base because I'm going to say that I agree with it. But that'll be what the H. That's how we're going to close out the show today. So hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn your notifications on, tell a friend. We're building something great here at Off the Hook Sports. We want you to be a part of it. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We are live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used. East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Let's get rolling with today's tough question, and it is brought to you by Banks & Jones. Kickoff times have been set for Tennessee's matchups with the ETSU Buccaneers and the Georgia Bulldogs. That's their second and third games of the season. The kickoff time for their opening week matchup against Syracuse was already set. That's a noon kickoff. I spoke a couple of weeks ago about why that helps the Vols. Tennessee will play ETSU at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. And SEC Network Plus and ESPN Plus will stream the game. That's not going to be on any linear television. Then they will play Georgia also at 3:30 the next week on ABC. So 3 afternoon games to start the year, despite the fact that the SEC is going to more of a night game focus for its prominent games. You would think they would do that with Tennessee, Georgia. They are not doing that. They are having Tennessee, Georgia play in the afternoon. I believe the reason they are doing that is because week 3 that day, the night game is going to be for the SEC, and I'm going to pull it up now. A lot of games are still to be determined, but the night game for that one is going to be Florida and LSU on ABC, and Texas A&M and Notre Dame is going to be on NBC and Peacock. The ABC wanted the Florida LSU game for the night, and they wanted Tennessee, Georgia for the afternoon. So today's tough question is this. Did Tennessee get a break by playing Georgia in the afternoon? That is today's tough question, and it is brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. Tennessee plays Georgia at 3:30 p.m. Saturday afternoon, the third weekend of the fall. I think this is the first break Tennessee's gotten with their SEC schedule this year. A lot of people have been making the case that the SEC schedule and Tennessee schedule overall is what will propel them into the college football playoff and make up for their seemingly lack of personnel. But see, Tennessee's schedule's top heavy, and there's a big gap. They play at Alabama and at Florida. The problem with that is you would want to have those games at home so you have winnable games. Their home game of their marquee game is Georgia at home. Because of the rest of their schedule, they can't afford to go 9-3. They're going to miss the playoff at 9-3. But it's a tough path to 10-2 because they've either got to steal one on the road against Alabama or Florida, or somehow beat Georgia at home when Georgia's still a cut above them, significantly so in terms of overall talent. So you kind of almost wrote off Georgia as a loss. But with this 3:30 kickoff, they finally get a break. They finally get a break with the 3:30 kickoff because, as I've told you guys before, and I'm going to reiterate this point, Josh Heupel's team is significantly better in afternoon games than they are in night games. Last year alone, they played, and I'm going to do the math for you guys real quick. They played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games at night. They played 9 of their 13 games at night. Against the spread, they were 3-6. They lost their last 3 games against the spread at night. They lost their last 3 games against the spread at night. They won their first 3. They beat the spread in their first 3. But part of that is, let's just be honest, they played NC State, Kent State, and Oklahoma. A big reason they beat the spread in those 3 games is because it was early in the season, and it turned out NC State and Oklahoma were significantly worse than we thought they were. Both teams finished 6-7 on the year. Matter of fact, Kent State, which went 0-12 and may have been the worst team of all time, managed to be significantly worse than we thought they were. And I said they were the worst team on Tennessee's schedule last year, including worse than Chattanooga. But they managed to even be worse than that. So the only reason Tennessee beat the spread in their first 3 games is because they beat 3 teams that turned out to be significantly worse as the year went on. But what happened the rest of the way? Arkansas, they lost 19-14 as a heavy favorite. Arkansas didn't turn out to be better than we thought. They were 7-6. Wasn't like that was so no love for Arkansas. Florida, they needed overtime to win at home. Again, Florida did turn out to have a strong finish to the season, but before that they got blown out by Georgia and Texas. So it wasn't like they were playing well at the time Tennessee beat them. So Tennessee shouldn't have needed overtime to beat Florida. Kentucky, Tennessee lost against the spread. Kentucky had one of their worst teams ever. They were 4-8. Tennessee couldn't beat the spread on that. Mississippi State, November the 9th, it was well established that team was terrible last year, and Tennessee couldn't beat the spread against them. Nico did get hurt during that period for the second half, but at the same time, they should have beaten the spread. And then, of course, Ohio State, the college football playoff game. So Tennessee finished 0-6 against the spread after a 3-0 start against 3 teams that just turned out to be way worse than we thought. They're bad at that. I'm talking about in night games. They're bad in night games. What about afternoon games? What about noon games? 12:45 kickoff with Chattanooga at the beginning of the year. They beat the spread. They won 69-3. Again, first month of the season, you have to take it with a grain of salt. People don't know how good teams are. Later in the year though, Alabama, October the 19th. Tennessee was an underdog. They won outright, money line, 24-17. Then at the end of the year, UTEP and Vanderbilt, back-to-back weeks. 1 p.m. kickoff, noon kickoff. Tennessee beat the spread both times. So, simply put, Tennessee was 4-0 against the spread in non-night games, 3-6 against the spread in night games. This is because they practice in the morning. So, getting Georgia at home is a huge advantage for them that it's an afternoon kickoff. Having an afternoon kickoff is a huge advantage for them. So vote on the poll question. Tennessee's afternoon kickoff time versus Georgia will help the Vols, hurt the Vols, doesn't matter. Again, today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott.
The poll question up: Tennessee's afternoon kickoff time versus Georgia will help the Vols, hurt the Vols, doesn't matter. 58% say help the Vols, and then 54% say will help the Vols, 23% say it'll hurt the Vols, 23% will say it doesn't matter. So with that in mind, Tennessee's afternoon kickoff time, I agree with you guys, will help the Vols. I agree with the people on the poll question on that. Now, again, the big reason for this is that Tennessee practices very early in the morning during the week. Very early in the morning. So noon and 3:30 kickoffs are much more conducive to them than night games. By the way, I forgot to mention last year too, they failed against the spread at Georgia, which was a night game. So with that in mind, I'll say this. Tennessee also could get an advantage that we didn't see, because Georgia's still going to be working Gunnar Stockton in at quarterback. They're going to have a quarterback issue. Now, it's not like Tennessee won't. They thought they were going to have Nico Iamaleava, but I think they're a little more set on Joey Aguilar than anybody else. So I think Tennessee kind of knows what they have, and the quarterback, I think it's a lot easier to plug a quarterback into Josh Heupel's system than it is to plug one into a pro-style offense run by Kirby Smart and Mike Bobo. So with that in mind, I think breaking in a new quarterback gives Tennessee an advantage. Playing at home gives them an advantage. I think now Tennessee has a chance. They have a chance to upset Georgia, even though I wrote it off as a loss at the beginning of the year. I still think Georgia's going to win that game, but I think getting it in the afternoon with Georgia's quarterback issues does give them a chance. How good of a chance? I don't know. But it does give them a chance, and I think they should be very, very, very happy about that. Look, Tennessee's not on Georgia's level right now of talent. They just aren't, and it's a problem, and it's something they got to work on. But getting them at 3:30 is probably the biggest advantage you could ever ask for from them. So with that in mind, I will say that Tennessee doesn't have to write off Georgia as a loss anymore. And they would have had to do that had this not been an afternoon kickoff. The funny thing is, the Tennessee-Georgia game tickets are, the cheapest tickets are $271. The Florida LSU game for that night, the cheapest tickets are $82. I don't know why LSU tickets are 3 times as cheap as Tennessee tickets since the game's at LSU, but because that should be a big game, but maybe LSU's not as taking Florida as seriously as they should, as I think they should, or as Tennessee's taking Georgia. So that's probably how that works out. Portions of the program are brought to you by Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations. Your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. It is time for Bank on It. Brought to you by Commercial Bank. Member FDIC, life made better. Zakai Zeigler has a scheduled hearing on his lawsuit against the NCAA a week from Friday. It has now been revealed. For those who don't know the story, Zakai Zeigler filed a lawsuit on May the 20th, claiming that the NCAA was causing him irreparable harm by not letting him play a 5th season of college basketball. NCAA bylaws, as we all know, allow college athletes to play 4 seasons in 5 years unless there's a medical red shirt or something like that. Zeigler's case is, by allowing red shirts, by allowing people to stay 5 years, you should allow them to play 5 years. And this goes from the NIL idea of, again, this is an antitrust lawsuit, basically. Zakai Zeigler has a case. He's just making the wrong argument for his case. And let me explain. And the hearing is going to be a week from Friday. The NCAA is allowed to have a model of 4 seasons of eligibility in 5 years. They're allowed to do that. Now, you can, yes, you could talk about it, limit the amount of money you can make with them, but you could also say that so many other institutions that allow you to make money with them have a time limit on when you can do it. That's not uncommon. So, I mean, theoretically, you could call it a contract when you sign. That's what the NCAA would call it. So I don't think there's really a lawsuit Zakai Zeigler has. Diego Pavia's lawsuit's a little bit different because he's arguing that junior college shouldn't count against his eligibility. Zakai Zeigler is saying his 4 years of playing at Tennessee should be 5 because other players who didn't play 4 years were allowed to be in college 5 years, even though they didn't play 5 years. That's not going to be an argument that holds up, I don't think. Here's what would have held up for Zakai Zeigler. And this is an argument no one's made yet. For those who don't remember, Zakai Zeigler reclassified into the 2021 recruiting class for Tennessee. He showed up a year early on campus. That means he had to take a lot of extra coursework to graduate early in high school, and he had to do a lot of extra things, and he showed up maybe before he was fully ready. Zakai Zeigler could say that by reclassifying and being a year younger when he got there, he limited his earning potential with the NCAA, and he should be rewarded with the 5th year because he did the extra work to reclassify a year early by completing his high school courses. This is the way I make the argument with the transfer portal. Before the whole transfer portal rules became the wild, wild west, the NCAA used to say that there used to be an argument that if you complete your classes and graduate, you can transfer anywhere you want, regardless of the eligibility you have. It should kind of work. There should be an exception for underclassmen too. I think Zakai Zeigler should make the case that because he reclassified early, he should get a reward for a 5th year of eligibility, because by reclassifying, he went to college a year younger and therefore didn't reach his full potential as a player that he otherwise could have throughout his growth and development during his 4 years in college. That's the argument I think he should make, but he's going a different route. And I'm just going to tell you guys that route, bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. Zakai Zeigler is not going to win this argument, the argument he's making.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions.
All right, I'm putting up the poll question. What is Zakai Zeigler's best case for 5th year of college? The NCAA allows players to stay 5 years. He reclassified to enter college early. He reclassified to enroll early. Excuse me. Or, and this is the last one, or you think he has no case? You guys give me your thoughts. The NCAA already allows... Okay, so what is Zakai Zeigler's best case for a 5th year of college? The NCAA allows players to stay 5 years. He reclassified to enroll early. He has no case. I think his best argument, my vote would be he reclassified to enroll early. I think he does have a case there. Allowing players to stay 5 years, I mean, again, with a red shirt, it's not the same. They have those rules. They're very clear on them. I don't think the NCAA is in the wrong with that argument. And honestly, if I was up there, I would side with the NCAA. So I love Zakai Zeigler. I love everything he did for Tennessee. I hate that he didn't win a national championship or get to a Final Four. He is everything right about college basketball. And in my opinion, he would be the starting point guard on the all-time Tennessee basketball team, what he did for Tennessee. He accomplished everything at Tennessee that anybody has ever accomplished at Tennessee from team success. So I'm not so sure that... So I think Zakai Zeigler honestly deserves all the accolades, but I don't think just saying he deserves a 5th season because they allow 5 years of college sports for other players is going to work. That's going to change college sports in so many different ways. Everybody's going to then stay 5 seasons at that point. And I'm just not sure that's the best way to go about this. So in my mind, I would honestly say, and by the way, I think even Rick Barnes isn't expecting it. Rick Barnes went and signed Jacoby Gillespie, the Maryland transfer, earlier this year. He's got Troy Henderson committed. And now, reportedly, Tennessee already is looking at another transfer out. They're not done with their roster yet. Reportedly, Rick Barnes and the Vols are targeting Desmond Claude. Now, again, Desmond Claude is not necessarily a point guard. He's a 2 guard, but he did average 4 assists last year. So Desmond Claude would be a huge pickup for Tennessee. When you do that, I'm not so sure where Zakai Zeigler would fit in necessarily with Tennessee's team next year. It looks like Rick Barnes has even decided to move on. And I think there's a lot of love for Zakai Zeigler. I think we all respect the game he played. But at the same time, I just don't know how he's going to win this case. So I think that Zakai's best case was he reclassified to enroll early. Nobody agrees with me on that. That's interesting. So looking at the poll question right now, what is Zakai Zeigler's best case for a 5th year of college? The NCAA allows players to stay 5 years, 83%. He has no case, 17%, and 0% say he reclassified to enroll early. I'm going to have to say that I think that I'm with the 0%, meaning I'm with myself on this. It's because he reclassified to enroll early. I know that sounds crazy, but I do think that reclassifying should allow you a 5th year. I don't understand why it wouldn't. He went to college early. Shouldn't there be a reward if you can finish your work, your coursework early and then reclassify for college? I think it's only fair to do that. So I think Zakai Zeigler, honestly, I'll just tell you guys, he's not going to win this case in a week. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some laws, maybe there's some bylaws that I'm not aware about. Maybe there's some antitrust violations that I'm not aware about. But at the same time, if he wins this case and Diego Pavia wins his case, you're really opening the door, honestly, to the NCAA having no eligibility rules, not being allowed to have any eligibility rules because of NIL. And that's insane, guys. That's insane. At that point, what they'll start doing is entering contracts with players, which is to say, when you come, you're like making a legal binding document that you sign. And you get to say you can make whatever money you want while here, but this is the amount of time that you are under that contract, and then just refuse to renew contracts once those contracts are up. That's the way the NCAA would go with this. I don't think it's a good move for Zakai Zeigler to do this. Sudasham brings up a good point that if he wins it, it doesn't necessarily mean he's returning to Tennessee and that his money value will be high. That's very true, Sudasham. Sudasham also has said that he says Sudasham says has said he or she, I don't know if you're a man or a woman, I'm sorry, Sudasham, but you said you heard from a reputable lawyer that his confidence in his succeeding was in the 90th percentile. That's interesting. You say it has to do with antitrust cases. Yeah, I mean, and look, I'm big on the antitrust laws. That's why I've told everybody salary caps aren't coming to college athletics the way you want. All right. You're opening the door. It is the Wild West forever because it's going to violate antitrust laws. But I don't think time limits on eligibility violate antitrust laws if you have a uniform standard on that. I mean, I've never heard of that happening. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's something in the antitrust laws that say they do, but it's hard for me to find how time limits of any kind would violate antitrust laws for any organization. I mean, you could say, okay, the NCAA was violating antitrust laws by not letting players make money off their name, image, and likeness and having no competition for them to go. That's fair, but it's not like the NCAA stealing from them by having eligibility laws. I don't see where the connection is there. I think there's too much of a gap, but we'll see how it goes. It would certainly change college athletics in a huge way if he did actually do that. Portions of the program are brought to you by Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. HempHouseChatWith2Ts.com. HempHouseChatWith2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. When we come back, we're going to talk about the college football playoff debate that is raging this week from SEC spring meetings. Stick with us, 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Caleb Calhoun here. Portions of the program are brought to you by Hound Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. hdknoxville.com, hdknoxville.com. It is time for This Day in Tennessee Sports History, and another very happy birthday to one Turk McBride, who hits a milestone today. He turns 40. McBride was an all-SEC defensive tackle for Tennessee, played for the Vols from 2003 to 2006, and then enjoyed a solid NFL career. 3 years with the Chiefs from 07 to 09, 2 years with the Lions from 09 to 2010, 2 years with the Saints from 2011 to 2012, and then 1 year with the Bears in 2013 as just a practice squad member. Turk McBride comes from Camden, New Jersey, was a very good player for Tennessee. A lot of respect for him as a person, and happy birthday. Congratulations on hitting the 40 milestone. I'm 3 years away from that, and I am scared of seeing it. I'm not going to lie to you, but hey, we all got to get there. So anyways, happy birthday to Turk McBride, and we wish him the best going for This Day in Tennessee Sports History, brought to you by Peak IV Hydration in South Knoxville and Sevierville. Live your life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. PeakIVHydration.com. Link is in the chat and in the description down below. PeakIVHydration.com. All righty. The college football playoff debate continues. And let's just say things are getting tense. And this is because of SEC spring meetings this week. But news came out that for those complaining about the automatic qualifier model, the SEC is not the one pushing for it. This is one of the weird, funny things about college football. Everything that SEC haters have wanted with the playoff, the SEC's been the one to push for it. And they think that the current structure is rigged in favor of the SEC. So let's go back through history real quick. The BCS era. For those who don't remember, it was always the SEC who pushed for a playoff. Always. It was always the SEC pushing for a playoff. As early as 2004, they wanted a playoff when Auburn got left out of the national title game and no other conference did, and they kept getting blackballed on it. Until 2011, when two SEC teams played for the national title in the BCS. So, because two SEC teams played, the Big Ten caved, and the ACC caved, and they decided, okay, fine, we'll have a 4-team playoff. There was a 4-team playoff. During the 10 years of the 4-team playoff, twice you saw two SEC teams play each other for a national title. Then you saw Alabama get in over Florida State in 2023. Well, let's back up. Then you saw the SEC trying to expand the playoff to 8 teams, to 12 teams. Again, they got pushback from the ACC, so they couldn't do it. Ironically, the last year of the 4-team playoff, the ACC, their undefeated Florida State Seminoles get left out. Alabama gets in. Wouldn't have happened if there was a 12-team playoff. The ironic thing is people thought the BCS was rigged in favor of the SEC. They thought the 4-team playoff was rigged in favor of the SEC, but both times the SEC was pushing for the expanded playoff. Now, everybody's complaining about the automatic qualifiers as if it's rigged in favor of the SEC. But here's the funny thing about it. It's not the SEC pushing for their automatic qualifiers. It's actually the SEC, as we found out, pushing for a 5+11 format. 5 conference champions, 11 at-large teams. Boom. That's what the SEC is pushing for. The Big Ten is the one pushing for the automatic qualifiers. And here's the hilarious part. You're still seeing people complain that the automatic qualifiers is how college football is rigged in favor of the SEC, as if the SEC is pushing for it. The Big Ten wields more power than the SEC, guys. They've gotten their way every time. It's only gotten how they want. But it's hilarious that the SEC is getting blamed for this. Greg Sankey's not a good enough commissioner to wield that type of power. But we're going to play a little 4 downs here, because it turns out the Big Ten will only agree to a 5+11 model on one condition. And that one condition means there are 4 possibilities ahead for the college football playoff. We're going to play 4 downs now. 4 downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford. And it is, what are the possibilities for the college football playoff? And it all deals with SEC scheduling. The first option, the SEC stays at 8 conference games, and it's about the number of conference games the SEC is staying in. If the SEC stays at 8 conference games, the Big Ten is going to push for the automatic qualifiers. Straight up. And the reason for that is last year, because it looks like the playoff is expanding to 16 teams. Let's just get that out. It looks like it's expanding to 16. At the very least, it's going to expand to 14 teams. So the expansion to 16 teams, if that were last year, you would have had, so in the playoff, you had 4 Big Ten teams and 3 SEC teams get in. If the playoff expanded to 16 teams, though, you would have had Alabama, Miami, Ole Miss, and South Carolina all get in. At which point, you would have had 3 more SEC teams get in. And so you would have had 6 SEC teams and just 4 Big Ten teams. That's what the Big Ten doesn't want to see. That's why they want the automatic qualifiers. But here's the problem. Even with the automatic qualifiers, you still would have had 2 more SEC teams. Now, if you go to 14, you would have had the same number of SEC and Big Ten teams because Alabama was 11 and Miami was 13. So, but the Big Ten knows that if schedule strength gets valued by the committee, that the automatic qualifier situation is going to be the only way they stay competing. And so they're worried about that. So that's the first format, an 8-game schedule for the SEC with automatic qualifiers. For an automatic qualifiers, I don't mean like conference champions. I mean 4 teams per conference. The SEC and Big Ten each get 4. ACC and Big 12 each get 3, or each get 2, something like that. The other format, the SEC moves to a 9-game schedule, and it's a 5+11 format. Now, this is probably the most likely scenario. But the SEC is having trouble getting to the 9-game schedule because they got to renegotiate a deal with ESPN before they do that. And then the SEC and Big Ten can have matchups. But the Big Ten won't allow or move on from automatic qualifiers until the SEC goes to a 9-game schedule. So if the SEC goes to a 9-game schedule, they'll do it, and then there will be a 5+11 format. Option number 3, a straight seeding. No automatic qualifiers, just the top 16. Again, even if the Big Ten agreed to that, they wouldn't do it unless the SEC would agree to go to a 9-game schedule. So that's third down. The likely one that I said, SEC goes to 9 games, second down, 5+11, that was second down. What's fourth down? Well, we'll bring that up in a minute. First 4 downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford.
Fourth down is this. The SEC goes to 9 games with automatic qualifiers per conference. That was the leading idea earlier in the week, but I think the SEC is pushing back on that, and I understand why. Here's what I think is going to happen. The SEC is going to 9 games. They will renegotiate their contract with ESPN, and you'll have a 5+11 format. That's how I think this is going to work. And the way, and here's how I think. But here's the other issue. If you do the 5+11 format, which I'm fine with, and I'm fine with the SEC going with 9 games, you still have the issue of devaluing the conference championship games. So the play-in model that people were talking about isn't going to happen. Here's my best case, and I'm going to write something on this. This is how you fix the college football playoff. You guys ready for this? Here's how you fix it. The SEC renegotiate this deal with ESPN to allow them to go to 9 games. They strike up an agreement with the Big Ten to have an SEC Big Ten matchup at the start of the year. The SEC, they can get out of that Big Ten matchup. Here's how we'll do it. Actually, I'm going to take this back. No, forget the SEC Big Ten challenge. No, dropping it because I want to keep the SEC ACC rivalries. So the SEC just agrees to go to 9 games. You play one Power 5 team, whether that be the ACC or the Big Ten, and then a lower level team, and then a group of 5 team, that is, and then a Division II school every year to give them their money that they need to prop up their program. Then you do the 5+11 model. Now we got to put value on conference championship games. How are we going to put value on conference championship games in a 5+11 model? Well, here's how. The top 2 seeds get to play the first 2 games at home. That's how I would do it. Matter of fact, I'll do this. The top 2 seeds get to play the first 2 games at home, not just the first week at home. Now you're playing for something much more significant in a conference championship game, because the problem is if you do a 16-team playoff, and this is a huge issue here, if you do a 16-team playoff, you already have nothing. You already are just playing for a bye during your conference championship week. But if you do a 16-team playoff, you're now playing for nothing your conference championship week. Literally nothing. Particularly if you're in the SEC or the Big Ten and you're going to get a home game anyway. I'd rest my starters. So one of 2 things is going to have to happen. And here's actually, I'm speaking this in real time as we talk about it. You know what we're going to do? We're going to speak this in real time, and we're going to have a little fun here. We're adding a week to the regular season of college football. How about that? Add a week to the regular season of college football. Get rid of conference championship games. That's your best way to do this. Ditch them. Ditch the conference championship games. You play a 9-game schedule, and then the team with the best record in the conference wins the conference title at the end of the year every year. Boom. Period. End of story. That's how that works. I think that's the best way to do it. I think you do a 5+11 format, have a 13-game schedule for every team, and then you can open the year with an SEC Big Ten challenge. 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, 4-4. Like the team that won the SEC the previous year and the team that won the Big Ten the previous year, they play each other. Do a 13-game schedule. No more conference championships, and then you just play an extra week of the regular season for every team on the first week of December. Renegotiate with the networks. You got more to promise them at that point. I think that's your only fix to do this, guys. How are you going to fix? How are conference championships going to matter? Honest question. How are conference championships going to matter if there's a 16-team playoff, particularly for the SEC and the Big Ten? That doesn't make sense. And that is where I would land. That I would throw the conference championship game every year. I wouldn't want to go. So if I'm going, I'm totally resting. So I say either guarantee home field advantage for the first 2 weekends for the top 2 seeds, or again, you with the conference champions, you have an extra week of conference championship games. You can also do this. And now this would be a little bit controversial, but I might do it this way, actually, guys. Here's what I might do. Top 2 seeds get guaranteed home field advantage no matter. How about this? You seed however you want to seed. You seed 1 through 16, but you don't automatically give home field advantage to the higher seed. This is actually genius, the way I'm thinking about it. You seed 1 through 16, but all 5 conference champions do get home field advantage the first weekend. The top 2 conference champions get home field advantage the first and the second weekend and don't have to play each other the first 2 weekends. That is how you do it. You seed all the way 1 through 16, home field advantage in the first weekend, but the top 5... Actually, I'm going to throw it... we can even fix this in a different way. How about this? You seed it 1 through 16, and in the first round, just the 5 conference champions get to play at home. That's all you really have to do to make sure that you have a playoff that puts value on conference championship games. Just do something like that. Okay, but otherwise, the conference championship games are going to go out of the window, and the SEC doesn't want that. They don't know how to fix it. Portions of the program are brought to you by Quality Tire Pros, serving Chattanooga community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service, automotive, brake alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. Walk in and say, "Hey, Bo, Off the Hook Sports sent you." When we come back, the College Football Hall of Fame has changed, and it's changed for the worse, maybe. It's changed just so one person can get in, but it's going to open up a can of worms, and I'm going to talk about why. First, 2 minutes, Off the Hook Sports. Stick with us.
It's a new year, a new day, And Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Portions of the program are brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. Rick Terry Jewelry.com. Tennessee had a heartbreaking softball loss yesterday where they lost. Carolyn Pickens gave up a walk-off home run to Oklahoma. I will touch on that in a minute. It's going to be related to our stat of the day because it's a very, very, very negative stat that you probably don't want to hear, but it's an interesting one. And it's heartbreak is kind of the story of the Tennessee program under the weeklies because let's not forget in 2007, they bum rushed their way to the College World Series finals, championship series, took game 1. Monica Abbott pitched as well as she could the next 2 games, but had no run support. And eventually her arm just gave out and Tennessee lost in extra innings, both time in extra innings to Arizona, I believe it was. So just, yeah, heartbreaking loss. I'm going to get to a very depressing stat if you are a Tennessee fan soon enough that is related to this. I'm sorry to pile on the depression, but it is just how things go. It's not the first time Tennessee had. There are 2 teams basically that are just a major albatross around Tennessee's neck in the College World Series. And yes, Oklahoma is one of them. And I will talk about that. But first, the College Football Hall of Fame has changed its standard for coaches. That standard is reducing the win percentage for coaches required to get in. This is all about allowing a certain coach in I'm going to get to. But the new rule sets eligibility standard at .595. So you have to win 59.5% of your games. It used to be you had to win 60% of your games. On principle, I'm for this eligibility rule. And the reason I'm for it is because I think depending on where a coach is and where a coach has been, I don't think it's fair to say they have to have a 60% win clip if they take over a terrible, terrible program and it takes time to build up that program, okay? I just think that's kind of ridiculous. I'm not actually a fan of win percentage minimums in general because the standards are just different depending on where you are, all right? So, I mean, there are plenty of coaches that, maybe took over the worst program possible, and it took them a long time to get it going. The win percentage is not going to be what it is, so I don't really love it in general. However, this opens the door for certain coaches to get into the Hall of Fame that I'm not a fan of. So it's time to play some Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air, cityheatandair.com, 50 years at East Tennessee, integrity matters, cityheatandair.com. So let's talk about the coaches who could get in, and we're going to play Hot or Cold. And first off, I'm going to say up front that the coach that it's most obvious we're talking about here is going to be saved for the end. So, Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air. Coaches now eligible for the College Football Hall of Fame with their current win percentage because of the new Hall of Fame rule. Oh, Les Miles can get in now. That's right. Les Miles can get into the College Football Hall of Fame. Les Miles won a national title at LSU with a 2-loss team. The only coach to do that in the BCS era. Heck, no one even did it in the college football playoff era, but Les Miles managed to do it in the BCS era. You got to love that. He had a .597 win percentage, and the win percentage it dropped below 60% because he had 37 wins vacated by the Tigers because of NCAA infractions. All right, Les Miles never should have been ineligible to begin with because vacated wins are stupid now looking back, but I'm cold on Les Miles still getting into the Hall of Fame. Les Miles is the luckiest coach in the history of luck, okay? He inherited a program that Nick Saban built up that became the easiest place in the history of the world to win a national title at, and he backed into his one national title with a 2-loss team because his selling point in 2007 was, we didn't lose to anybody in regulation. Now, they were the best team. They deserved to go to the national title game, but it was just nothing but luck. Les Miles is the luckiest coach in the history of the world, and he's living proof that this country is not a meritocracy, okay? Meritocracy doesn't exist. Les Miles proves it. He was a terrible coach who got lucky as heck to get to a national championship. No, Les Miles does not belong in the College Football Hall of Fame. Guess who else is now available can get into the College Football Hall of Fame because of this rule? Now, he's still coaching, so things could change. But Kirk Ferentz is now officially able to get into the College Football Hall of Fame. Should he? This is a tough one for me, but I'm actually hot on Kirk Ferentz getting into the College Football Hall of Fame as if he were to retire right now. What's keeping his win percentage below the 60% threshold and what kept it there for so long is because his first year at Iowa, he went 1-10. Well, he took over for a horrible program that was 3-8 the year before. So going 1-10 and 3-9 his first 2 years is nothing to be ashamed of. But also, he spent 3 years at Maine. Yeah, Maine, where he went 3-8, 3-8, and 6-5. So with that in mind, yes, Kirk Ferentz, I think, actually deserves some consideration for the Hall of Fame. Longevity has to count for something. He's got over 200 wins. He's got over 200 wins. And I think when you get over 200 wins, I think you've got to make somewhat of a case. Now, I'm somewhat eating my words. With some coaches, you might say that about, but overall, yeah, you get over 200 wins. I think you have a case to be in the Hall of Fame. No, Les Miles does not have over 200 wins for his career. So sorry, Les Miles is not a College Football Hall of Famer. All right, moving on. Rich Rodriguez. I'm cold on Rich Rodriguez. I actually respect the offense he built. I wonder what things would be like had he gone to Alabama when he was offered in 2007 before they went after Nick Saban. But Rich Rodriguez is living off he's been fired before, and he's never won a national championship. And his success is inflated by the 2 years he had Pat White and Steve Slayton together. So with that in mind, no, I'm cold on Rich Rodriguez. He's not a Hall of Famer. What about Jackie Sherrill? Guess what? Jackie Sherrill's now eligible for the Hall of Fame all of a sudden. Jackie Sherrill, who coached at Pittsburgh, Texas A&M, and Mississippi State, and Washington State, to be fair, won 2 national titles at Pittsburgh that Pittsburgh claims, because even though they didn't finish number 1 in any official poll on either of those titles, by the way, on the AP or the coaches, they have a bunch of other polls like the New York Times and Sagarin and people like that. And NCF in 1981, they finished number 1, won the national title in 1981 with that. So, hey, can they claim can Jackie Sherrill stake his claim to the Hall of Fame? He could theoretically say he's a 2-time national champion. No, because again, neither national championship is really legitimate. They claim it in 1980, yet Georgia went undefeated that year. They're the national champs. They claim it in 1981, yet Clemson went undefeated that year. They're the national champs. Those aren't legitimate national championships. He won 3 Southwest Conference titles at Texas A&M and then got in trouble and had to leave because of major infractions, and then went to Mississippi State, won the West one time, but again, had to leave because of major infractions after 13 years there. Jackie Sherrill, I'm cold, not a Hall of Famer. Hot or cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. City Heat and Air, cityheatandair.com. The elephant in the room, how about the pirate in the room? Coming up after a quick message from City Heating and Air.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Jackie Sherrill's coaching career includes stops at Mississippi State, Washington State, and a Texas school that was in the old Southwest Conference. Mike Leach is just like Jackie Sherrill. I'm kidding, guys. But he also had stops that were at Mississippi State, Washington State, and a school in the old Southwest Conference because he coached at Texas Tech. Mike Leach, this is who this was made for. Rest in peace to the Pirate, had a 59.6 win percentage and just below the threshold to get into the Hall of Fame. Look, my Hall of Fame standards are high. When Mike Leach passed away, I had a big debate on this show that I didn't think he was a Hall of Famer because I have a very high Hall of Fame standard. I respected what he did. I respected the offense he developed. But I didn't think he had produced enough to get to the Hall of Fame. I have willingly amended my feelings on that. I think Mike Leach belongs in the Hall of Fame. And I'm usually like, if you have to think about it, they're not in. But Mike Leach's impact on the game is intangible. And I can't say it's not. I do think he didn't achieve the way I think people thought he overachieved at schools. It's not like Washington State was an impossible place to win. I mean, Mike Price won a couple of Pac-12 titles there and turned out a top 2 draft pick in Ryan Leaf back in the day. So I don't think Washington State's as impossible of a place to win. Texas Tech is, okay? And he did go 11-2 in Texas at Texas Tech, finished number 12, and he had that program rolling before they didn't want to pay him and sabotage what he was doing. He was really building something at Mississippi State. He went 4-7 and then 7-6 and then 8-4 and had a top 20 program after 2022 before he passed away. So Mike Leach, I do think belongs in the Hall of Fame. I've amended myself. I mean, you can't take away the impact he's had on the game. The air raid offense is a part of so many offenses. Now, there are 2 coaches, I think, that developed systems over the last 40 years. 30 years. There are 3 coaches, There are 3 coaches that you would put in the Hall of Fame simply because they developed systems over the last 30 years that have taken over college football. Mike Leach, Art Briles, and Urban Meyer. And yes, Urban Meyer's on that list. The spread offense was not the spread offense before Urban Meyer got there. Now, some people say if Mike Leach can get in there, why not Rich Rodriguez? I don't think Rich Rodriguez's spread offense that he developed was as much of an impact as the Urban Meyer spread offense that he and Dan Mullen developed. But Mike Leach developed the air raid. He straight up invented it when he was with Hal Mumme at Kentucky. And with that in mind, yes, I'm hot on Mike Leach being a Hall of Famer. I didn't want to admit it, but it is true. He belongs in the Hall of Fame. So I'm setting up the poll question now. You guys vote on it. Beyond Mike Leach, who should get in the CFP Hall of Fame based on the new standards? And I'll let you guys vote. I'm going to put them all in because there's going to be Kirk Ferentz. I'm sorry, Les Miles, Jackie Sherrill. We'll go Rich Rodriguez and Kirk Ferentz. You guys vote on that. And it's the poll question. It's up now. I think a lot of people are going to say Les Miles. I'm going to sit up there and say Kirk Ferentz. Yes, I think Kirk Ferentz is the best of those 4 coaches, believe it or not. Les Miles is a laughably stupid coach. I would never put him in the hall of anything. He is arguably the most unintelligent human being I've ever witnessed, and he somehow has a national title on his resume. It's hilarious for me to say that. It's hilarious to think of Les Miles as a national champion. I think here's the biggest reason Les Miles shouldn't be a national champion. Here's the biggest reason Les Miles shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. In 2011, Les Miles, there is a debate about whether or not Oklahoma State or Alabama should get the number 2 spot to play number 1 LSU for the national championship game. LSU got a very lucky 9-6 win over Alabama in the regular season, and that was the difference. They were 12-0. Alabama was 11-1. Oklahoma State was also 11-1. Les Miles could have an impact over who got the nod because the coaches poll still determined partially who got the number, who would go to the national championship game. It was 1/3 of the BCS. Les Miles had a vote in the coaches poll that year. He voted Alabama number 2. Now he's right. Alabama was the better team than Oklahoma State. But what are you doing not thinking about your program as head coach of LSU? Why would you do that when you should not want to play Alabama again? You should want to play Oklahoma State. That was not thinking about the sake of the program. He just went with his integrity and voted Alabama number 2. Nick Saban didn't do that. Nick Saban had a vote in that coaches poll. He put Alabama number 2, and he put Oklahoma State down at number 5 to skew everything, okay? Les Miles is the stupidest human being to ever be a head coach. So no, he's not a Hall of Famer. My vote is Kirk Ferentz. I think I got people agreeing with me. TN Jr. says, where is none of the above? LOL. I could lean with none of the above, but I'm probably more of a Kirk Ferentz guy. He's my main one. I see there's a couple votes for Jackie Sherrill. Okay, all right. Portions of the program are brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates, facebook.com/Sports Treasures TN, facebook.com/Sports Treasures TM. It is time for the stat of the day, and I told you it was going to be a brutal one, but I'm sorry. I have to bring facts. I have to spit truth on this show, and that's what I'm going to do. After giving up a walk-off home run to Oklahoma yesterday in the Women's College World Series, Tennessee is straight up cursed with one program in the Women's College World Series now, and that one program is indeed Oklahoma. The Lady Vols have lost 4 straight to Oklahoma in the Women's College World Series. They are 0-4 against Oklahoma in the Women's College World Series. They can't beat them. They can't beat them. They lost to them off a walk-off last night. In 2023, they lost to them 9-0. And then a decade before that, in 2013 against Oklahoma, they played the Sooners twice. Lost to them 5-3 in extra innings, and then lost to them 4-0 the next day. Tennessee is 0-4 against Oklahoma specifically in the Women's College World Series. No one has given them more trouble in the Women's College World Series than Oklahoma. Stat of the day brought to you by Work Trucks. They're all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle. Now, time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down and has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is about time. Work Trucks saves you time with less back and forth trips and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process is also quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for Work Trucks. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with the nap height work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Trucks supplies vehicles to people just like you and get you back on the road tomorrow. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, you need to know Work Trucks, and that's a fact. Service industry, remember Work Trucks. Work Trucks carries the trucks that your business has to have. You need Work Trucks. Clinton Highway in Knoxville and in downtown Birmingham. For the entire inventory, go online to worktrucksllc.com, worktrucksllc.com with an X. Why risk chancing your future and business on the wrong piece of equipment that burns your time? Worktrucksllc.com. Work Trucks will also work to make sure you have the perfect vehicle you have to have. They'll even find a perfect truck, outfit it, and make sure it fits your needs to a T. Work Trucks with an X. LLC.com, WorkTrucksLLC.com, proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit of court/field storming policies because the SEC has changed theirs. That'll be What the H. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American-made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Portions of the program are brought to you by the UPS Store Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses, wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated, 10629 Hardin Valley Road. All right, let's get rolling with this. The SEC has updated their field and court storming policy. That's right, they've updated the field and court storming policy, and many fans aren't going to like it. It used to be an escalating fine from $100,000 to $250,000 to $500,000. They are now setting it a flat fine at $500,000 for the home team when somebody storms the field or court. All right, this is going to be what the H, because a lot of you guys are going to disagree with me on this, but I don't really care because I'm going to go ahead and say it. What the H, why is there still court and field storming in sports? It shouldn't be a thing. Look, we are lucky nobody has yet died from a court and field storming incident. It is dangerous. There are people that almost get trampled all the time. And I am totally for this fine, and I think it should be worse because I think schools should be incentivized to stop it. I think local police should be incentivized to stop it. I think schools should set policies that you are allowed in the stands of your stadium. The minute you go onto the field, you are trespassing. Okay? I maintain, and I will stick with this, because this happened a few years ago with the Jermaine Burton and Alabama thing at Tennessee, and I got a lot of flack for what I said on this show, but I'm going to stick with it because I defended Jermaine Burton, and I defended Amari Thomas for Tennessee when he did it last year. The players. When you step on the field or court as a fan, your rights end. I think a player has every right to cold cock you if you step on the field as a fan. Sorry, that's just how I feel about that. If you step on the field as a fan with a child, you should be arrested for endangering a child. I'm dead serious. If you step on the field or the court with somebody with a minor who was at the game with you, I don't know what age you want to set it as, you should be arrested for endangering a child. Okay, how about this? I'm going to pull back a little bit. Allow field storming. Allow court storming. If you do it with the child, you should be arrested for endangering a child. Also, if you storm the field or the court, players reserve the right to knock you out. Yeah, they reserve the right to knock you out. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. Players reserve the right to knock you out. Guys, we encourage gladiator-style playing from football athletes for 60 minutes. They are fighting and scratching and clawing and pushing and giving everything to try to win a game. And then if they lose and they're the road team, it's right after a loss. They are mad about a loss. They're walking off the field. You're asking them to pull their emotions back when fans are running off onto the field, storming, and probably talking a little trash to them. They reserve the right to do whatever they want to do to you if you're in their way. I'm sorry, they do. They reserve the right to do whatever they want to do. Now, if a player, let me back down for let me back off a little bit, because Cian Jr. has a good point on when you say I'm calling for violence. I don't mean calling for violence in the sense of if a player chases a fan on the field to beat him up. No, that's not okay. But if a fan is in a player's way, in any way, shape, and form when he's trying to get off the field, he can do whatever he wants to that fan. Whatever he wants. I don't really care. Do whatever you want. And if you don't like it, you shouldn't have gone on the field. You shouldn't have gone on the field. I have no problem with doing whatever you want to a person that gets in your way when you storm the field. So I am not you guys have, put it this way. You have the debate. You want to allow field storming? You allow yourself to get hit when you storm the field. It is the ultimate Karen move to say I should be allowed to trespass onto the field. I don't want any rules. I should be allowed to trespass onto the field, but there should be rules on the players to protect me when I do it. No, you don't want the rules. You don't want the rules. You want to be allowed to trespass? Trespass. Someone breaks into my home, I'm allowed to hit them. I am. That is the players' confined space. They are allowed to be there, and you are going into their confined space. All right? I'm very big on this. I feel very strongly about this. You lose all protections and rights when you storm the field. The second you step on the field as a fan, your rights end. They end. It's over. And I'm sticking with that. And if you don't like that, don't storm the field. It is dangerous, and I'm telling you, somebody's going to get hurt. I don't think this fine is high enough. Okay? So, look, either allow the violence against the people that storm the field or shut it down completely. One or the other. And I'll frame the poll question this way. What should field storming policy be? Allow it, or how about this? Ban it. Allow it, but no protection. Here we go. What should field storming policy be? Ban it. No protections if you storm the field. If you storm field. Or allow fans to trespass and protect them. There. Because that's what you're calling for. Let fans trespass and protect them. So what should field storming policy be? Ban it. No protections if you storm field. Let fans trespass and protect them. Because that's what you're calling for. You want fans to be able to break the law, and then you want all their protections for them at the same time. When you say they should be allowed to storm the field, but players should be allowed to hit a fan, should not be allowed to touch them when they do. I'm sorry. Remember Malice at the Palace? Remember that? Ron Artest got in so much trouble for going into the stands. How come Ron Artest got in trouble for going into the stands, but fans don't get in trouble for going onto the field or the court? I'm saying if they're allowed to come into the court, maybe you should be allowed to go into the stands. You shouldn't be allowed to go into the stands. Rule number 1 is you shouldn't be allowed to go into the stands. But I will also say rule number 2 is if fans should not be allowed to come into the court or the field. And if they do, players reserve the right to do whatever they want to the fans when that happens. Okay. Ron Artest shouldn't have gone into the stands. But that fan that ran on the court to fight Jermaine O'Neal should have been allowed to cold cock him and not face one charge. And he did punch him and knocked him out, but he slipped when he punched him, which is why he probably didn't kill the guy. Okay. But if you are calling for anything about that, and I'm dead serious, if you're even saying that, like, yes, the Jermaine Burton, Alabama, Tennessee incident, you're saying that woman had the right to storm the field and be protected by police. No. Either she shouldn't have stormed it. If you don't want to get hit by a player, don't storm the field. Sorry. That is my hot take. That's one of my hottest takes out there. Okay. So yeah, you shouldn't ask. It is the ultimate Karen thing. And by the way, Glue FPV says as long as fans get the right to do the same back, that's fine. That's fine. Let the fans do the same back. Yeah, let's let the fans fight the football players. Let's see who wins that fight, guys. All right. So I'll say this. And Derek says this. Derek goes, players that lost in the past didn't hit fans when they walked out the field with their heads up. Society has went to retro grease on both ends. Okay, but Derek, we also have to be fair. Field storming wasn't as antagonistic towards fans when they walked off the field the way it is now. There were also things that there were also things that happened back in the day that we don't allow anymore, like Ty Cobb when he went into the stands and beat up a man with no arms back in 1910. We don't want that. There's some ways we should actually allow that. T and Junior says, so mutual combat rules apply. That is ridiculous. Okay. Yes. And Glue FEV says more fans than players. But see, you're playing the numbers game, Glue FEV, but what I think you're missing is, yes, there's more fans than players. There's not enough fans willing to fight, though, that would win that fight. There's only a few fans willing to fight. Glue FEV says, you think the Sea of Orange won't mess up a band player who hits a girl? I don't know. I don't, actually, because I think most of the Sea of Orange would run, and then they would run and complain about players being violent on the field that they stormed. Sorry. That's the way I think about this. It's back to the old 100 guys versus a gorilla fight. That would never happen because, yes, 100 guys would win, but the first, 20 would have to sacrifice themselves to do it. And fans who storm the field most of the time aren't willing to sacrifice themselves to beat up a football player. They're just not willing to do that. You get the fans into a fight with the football team, you'll maybe have 100 fans. And you got a football team of 100 players. The fans are losing that fight, guys. Sorry, it's happening. The poll question is up. What should the field storming policy be? What the H brought to you by Double D Piping.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
Okay, so again, guys, here's a test of your consistency on this. And I know how our audience feels because you guys all agreed with me last year when a majority of Tennessee fans agreed with me when I fully defended Amari Thomas throwing that fan to the ground that got in his way. And most Tennessee fans agreed with Amari Thomas. Every poll showed that. You can't agree with Amari Thomas but have a problem with Jermaine Burton. You can't. It's all or nothing. It's all or nothing. It's players can hit fans on the field and get physical with them, or they can't. Period. End of story. You can't do it. You can't change your views just because an Alabama player did it. You can't. All right? It is simply players can get a little violent with fans who storm the field or not. I'm fine with, if you want the Old West, fine. If you want the Old West, fine. Let them go on the field and let them duke it out and let them fight and no consequences. I'm telling you right now, the players are going to win. Or for safety purposes, flat out ban it. One of the two. Either flat out ban it, or for safety purposes, flat out ban it, or say the minute you step onto the field, draw rights in. And you assume the risk when you step onto the field. And by the way, either way, if you bring a child onto the field, you should be arrested for child neglect. Anybody who brings a child onto the field when it's being stormed should be arrested for child neglect. I don't even care if this rule exists or not, okay? You bring a child onto the field, you should be arrested for child neglect. That is dangerous. A child could get trampled, and it's going to happen. And I love Blue FP. I'm all in. Melee on. Let's do it. Honestly, just for fun, let's do it. Let's let this happen, okay? Let's go ahead and just go all in and say Old West. You storm the field, players can fight. I think it would be great. Wouldn't that be great for the sport, guys? Come on. Wouldn't that be so much fun to watch? Would that be hilarious to watch if you saw fans and players fight every time a field storming incident would happen. Wouldn't that be great? I mean, everybody talked about the Malice at the Palace back in 2004, the Pacers-Pistons fight, and remember Bill Walton, this is a disgrace to the NBA. No, it wasn't. That was one of the most fun incidents of all time. It was one of the greatest moments in NBA history. I love, what's the Bill Burr quote again? I like violence, just not when it's being done to me. When he said, I enjoy the violence. Yeah, let the violence happen. Let the violence happen. I want it all. I want to see it. I mean, maybe it's my primitive instincts, but, I say just end all regulations on storming the field. I just do what I said. You step on the field, your rights end, you assume the risk, players are allowed to hit you. You'll think twice about storming the field then, won't you? And if you do, we will have one of the most fun. I'm sorry, somebody's going to do it next year. There will be a group of fans storm the field, and then players will get into a fight with them, and it would be legendary. I just want to see it. I want to see it. And I mean, y'all are trying to get serious with me here, but come on, let's not act like that wouldn't be hilarious. That's my solution to the field storming policy. The show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We're live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. It was great to be back this week. Thank you guys for all tuning in. You guys have a great rest of your weekend. Hit that like and subscribe button first. Ring the bell. Leave a comment. Turn your notifications on. Tell a friend. We are still building something great here at Off the Hook Sports. I want you to be a part of it. And I love having fun with you guys. You guys have a great rest of your weekend. We will be back on Monday live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern with Caleb Calhoun. This has